Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Covenant Eyes podcast. We are so glad to have you joining us. This is a special edition of the podcast. We have a wonderful guest joining us today from Angel Studios. They're going to be sharing a new film that is coming out in just a few days. And we are so grateful to be sharing this with our audience because we know you love good, wholesome, as well as inspirational content. So, Rob, welcome. How are you today?
Doing good, thank you.
Good. Do you want to introduce today's guest?
I do. Our guest today is Nate Deen. Nate is a passionate filmmaker, advocate for the arts, resides in Lancaster, Pennsylvania with his wife, Jessica, with over 30 years of really diverse experience at sight and sound theaters. Nate has excelled in various roles such as staff photographer, broadcast producer, and associate film producer. Currently, he is a self-employed film producer. Nate has made significant contributions to the film industry, notably served as associate film producer and assistant director for I Heard the Bells. Currently, he is executive producer for a new film coming out called Brave the Dark, which we're going to talk about today. Really reflects on Nate's journey of overcoming adversity, highlighting the transformation, the influence of a devoted teacher, Mr. Stan Deen. So it's a great story. He even founded the foundation called the Stan Deen Foundation, which we'd like to hear about. So, Nate, welcome to the Covenant Eyes podcast. Glad you could join us today.
I'm so glad to be joining you today. Excited to share this film.
Yeah, I'm sure. Great. Well, can you start out? I mean, here is a film about you when you were 14 years old. Did you ever imagine that you'd have a film about your life? Can you tell us about Brave the Dark and how that all really came about as a film?
Yeah, I mean, about 14 years ago, maybe 13, something like that, I really decided that I had a good story to tell. Actually a great story to tell, and I wanted to tell it. And I'm a film guy. I love films. I love movies. I love going to the movies. So I decided to write my story in script format to make it a movie. Decided to go around the book and everything. So my friend helped me write it, and it's really the story of a teacher who helped me at a time of desperate need, who went above and beyond, even when everyone else was saying, let the system take care of this kid. He stepped in and basically saved my life. And that's what the basis of the story is. Someone that did something that for another human being that didn't have to. He could have just said, you know what, I'm good, I can just do whatever. But he stepped in, this teacher, and he helped me navigate life.
It's incredible. This film is so moving, and I think all of our listeners that go and check it out are really going to come away from this feeling like a sense of hope that there are still good people in the world that do great things. Sometimes we hear so much bad out there that we forget that every day there are people doing amazing things to help other people. So let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the teens that are out there. You know, some parents might be listening, some teens might be listening to this podcast. What would you say to them if they're currently going through trials, maybe similar to what you faced in high school, and they're feeling hopeless?
I'm not an expert in it. I went through it. But what I encourage young people to do is just don't give up. And really don't go through it alone. You have to find somebody. There is someone that will listen to you, and hopefully they're not judgmental, but really connect with somebody, anyone, a pastor, a coach, a teacher, a guidance counselor. Get help. Don't go through it alone. You are not alone. And as Stan, Mr. Deen, the teacher in my life, he would always say to me, this too shall pass. And really, it's true. You know, any trial that you're going through, it'll end. Stick with it, get help, and don't go through it alone.
That's amazing. It's tough for young people to find people like that that can help. So what would you say to adults who see a young person, a teen struggling? What advice would you give them?
I think the number one thing I would say is just don't give up on the kid. They're going to mess up, They don't know life. They're trying to figure it all out. They're going to push you. They're going to test you. And you don't always have to help. You don't always have to give them money, but you cannot stop loving them. You cannot stop trying to support them in any way possible. I know that's very hard. And that's what Stan did for me. I pushed every button that I could push with him, just to see that he would even care. Because some people I'd push in after, a little bit, they would just walk away from my life. And as young people, we'll test adults sometimes just to see, do you really care? Or is this just a thing? And so as an adult, don't give up on that kid. Do what you need to do. If you're not the person that can help, find them someone that can help.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice. So you're a filmmaker. Talk to us a little bit of what it's like to be on the other side telling the story, because this is not just any story, it's your story. So talk to us a little bit about what that was like for you.
It was very surreal. Making movies is like a roller coaster. There's great things that happen, and then there's some things that, and it's just this emotional journey. And for me, it was really hard because it's my story, and I needed to protect, myself and what people think of me, and then as well as Stan's legacy. What is he leaving behind? I wanted to make sure that people cared for this human being that did so much for me. And so making this film was very surreal. And I actually, as a filmmaker, I kind of had to step aside and talk about this Nate character as someone that wasn't me, which is just really, and people were confused, like, how do I talk to you about this character? And I said, well, I'm not that character anymore. I'm not that person anymore. And so let's talk about that character. And I'm going to put all the bad things that I've ever done in my life in this film, because I think it's that important to let people know that you can get through things and that you can change, right? You just have to be willing to make that change. So
that's such an inspiring story, too. So, Nate, tell us a little bit more about the Stan Deen Foundation, how that got started and what that's all about.
Yeah, so after Stan passed away, I decided to start the Stan Deen Foundation to honor him and all that he did for me and this community. The community of New Holland, Pennsylvania. It's a small community where this film actually takes place. That's where I'm actually sitting today. And I just really felt that I wanted to give back. I wanted to be able to help mentor young people. And so what we're striving to do is we're going to help young people in need through education and the arts. So Stan was very much an educator, and he was also in the arts. He was a theater director for many, many, many years at the high school and so many other places. And so he was very much just part of this community and helped so many people, and now we want to give back. And we're going to get kids into mentorships, maybe even actually on films, in theater and music, anything art related, as well as giving some scholarships so those underprivileged kids can go to college, because without him, I wouldn't have gone to college. And I'm the man I am today because of what he did for me, and so I want to give back in the same ways.
I love that. And I love that you're raising up mentors that can share that kindness that you experienced with others, and then giving those kids hope. And I love that you're bringing the arts and theater to them, because that is such a great outlet for kids, for teens. So we, without giving too much away about the film, because we want people to go check it out, there is a scene in the film that really where this one act of kindness kind of changes your life. And, I want to talk a little bit. I'm not going to give away any details, but what would your life be like without that candy bar moment that happens in the movie? And for all of our listeners, you're going to have to watch the film to find out what I'm talking about. But talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was really important when we made this movie that we emphasize small acts of kindness. What Stan did for me was way above and beyond that, but it started with the candy bar. And I'm not going to give it away, but at a time when I was desperately in need, that small act of kindness from a teacher was really the beginning of the change in my life. I call it the planting of the seed of the change for my life. It didn't happen overnight. It took many, many years to get over that childhood trauma. But that small act of kindness really blossomed into the relationship that we would end up having for the rest of our lives, basically.
Nate, you were so touched and moved by Stan's impact on your life. You took on his last name here a few years ago. Can you tell us what went into that and why you did that?
Yeah, so as a foster child and a kid of the system, I had many different last names, maybe not officially, and none of them felt right. And after, spending time with Stan and becoming a family together, I basically became the son he never had, and he was the father I so desperately needed. And so I decided to change my name to Deen. And just a great story. I had to go in front of a judge to do that, which was great. And he just asked me to share a little bit about why. Why are you changing your name? And so there were other people in the courtroom and other cases that were after mine. And I got to share my story in front of that whole court case, and they all were crying and laughing and enjoying the story. And they were so honored to be able to hear that. And the judge said, "You are Deen inside and out, and I am honored to give you that last name." And so that's just such a precious thing for me. I'm so thrilled with that.
That is so amazing. Wow. The themes of this movie that come through are just the redemption, the mentorship. I mean, there's even, themes of you struggling with mental health issues and self-destruction. And I want to know, from your perspective, what is the appropriate age for viewers, if parents want to bring kids with them to see this film, because it is so moving and powerful. What is the appropriate age that you're thinking as far as viewing the movie with your family?
Yeah, I'm going to let that up to adults, I think, and parents. There are some pretty heavy moments in it. I would say that I've had a lot of viewers who've gone through childhood trauma and things that it didn't trigger them. They actually were so thankful that we shared this film because they can see a better way forward. And so, I would say 13, 14, but again, that all depends on your child. I think watching the film first as adults and then deciding for yourself, hey, this is a little tough. Maybe you can have some conversations. That's what this film's about. Let's have conversations about mental health with our children. You don't know what they're going through, behind the closed door of their bedroom. And so I think parents can use this film as a way to talk about some of the issues. So that's kind of where I kind of land with it. I'm proud to make it. We don't glorify any of the negative. We don't talk, we're not pushing any of those things. We're actually saying those are the bad things. Get away from those situations. So, yeah.
Well, Nate, tell us, when's the film out, and how, for our listeners, how can they find it and watch this?
Wow, I'm excited to say that it comes out in theaters January 24th, so this Friday night. I know some theaters are doing some special things on Thursday night, so you can check that out. You can reach out to Angel on their website or go to your local theater. And if it's not at your local theater, contact Angel and they'll try to get it to you. So really excited to get this film out and for people to experience it and start having discussions. Be entertained, but also educated and so much more. I believe this film is so much more than just a movie. It has so much to offer and lots of great discussions and topics to talk about with your family, friends, and those in need.
Absolutely. This movie is incredible. So listeners, we'll put all the links in the show notes so you can get to the Angel website and find a local theater that is doing this. I think this is a film definitely worth your time. I know that we're all very busy, but when a great film like this, a testimony, someone's story put together in such a meaningful way comes out like this, we need to get out and support that. So Nate, thank you so much for being willing to share your testimony, your story, and hopefully it will transform the lives and conversations of parents and teens all across this country. I think it's really that powerful.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited for people to experience it. Thank you for having me on this morning.
Of course.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you, listeners, for tuning into this episode of the Covenant Eyes podcast. Be sure to check the show notes for links so you can get out and watch this film and support this amazing opportunity to really, I think, be inspired, to be moved, and to even understand things that are hard, but I think really find a way forward through that. So thanks to everybody tuning in. Make sure you share the podcast and get out there and check out that film. Till next time, we'll talk to you later. Take care. God bless.